it's up to the brands to help foster a connection. They're the connector point. When we look at what I get to do every day, the way I like to talk about the team is I'm a connection point between two different sides of a pole. On one side, there's a creator somewhere that has a vision. They have a point of view or a story or something that they're trying to put out into the world that they want to share. On the other hand, you've got a consumer who has an emotional need that they need met. They need to laugh, they need to cry, they need to forget. There's something they're trying to fulfill. I think the brands that are most successful, the ones that say, okay, I've got a creator and a fan who both have needs. How do I connect them?
Run it up.
Hey everyone, quick disclaimer this week. In this episode, we cover a story about Meta Horizon Worlds discontinuing VR. But it turns out just a couple hours after we recorded the episode, Meta actually walked back that announcement, saying that they're going to keep VR operational on the platform. But the discussion around Horizon is actually really interesting, so we kept it in. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome back to Brands in Play, your podcast for everything immersive marketing. I'm Val Vacante.
And I'm Nic Hill, co-founder and chief innovation officer at Sawhorse. This week, we're rebroadcasting a dope panel from South by Southwest that we were both on. From the gaming track, the innovators today, and the future of play.
That's right. Mitchel Berger, Executive Vice President, Global Commerce at Crunchyroll, and Chris Down, Chief Design and Innovation Officer at Mattel, joined us to discuss how the biggest brands, platforms, and creators are shaping what play looks like right now and what's heading next.
That's right. But first, in the news this week, Fortnite's new season is full of cultural marketing gold. Meta Horizon is shutting down VR on the platform. Fortnite is returning to Google Play Store, and Heineken is capitalizing on fandom and human connection.
Then I'll walk you through the awesome tech at South by Southwest this year, including International Innovations Expo and standout experiences from Crunchyroll and Snap's Lens Studio.
And if you're enjoying Brands in Play, make sure to give us a follow. Every week, we break down how brands, platforms, and creators operate inside gaming and immersive media.
Let's get into it.
Let's go.
Run it up.
Val, what's up? We're back. How are you?
We are back. I am great. We're recovering from the South by Southwest frenzy.
I know. That was one of my favorite conferences of the year. I had a ton of fun. But now, I'm back soaked into reality, trying to get back into the swing of things, right?
That's right.
So I got a few announcements this week. There's some cool stuff going on. First, I have to be that guy and share some news that my gold Clio that just arrived
Yay!
from the Clios. This is to celebrate the Warner Brothers theatrical integration campaign for Sinners. So this is the highest honor that the Warner Brothers team earned for that campaign, and Sawhorse was just a small part of it. There were so many different touch points and companies that worked together, but it's a huge honor, and so I'm stoked on that. That's a big award.
Well, and it's super exciting. So massive congrats to you and the Sawhorse team and everybody involved. Not everybody gets a Clio, so congrats.
Thank you. It's years in the making, and humbling to work with so many talented people and be part of such a huge group of amazing innovators pushing the envelope, which is really cool. And then another thing I wanted to mention is that we have a new campaign that we just dropped today, actually, for Skittles. So this is a project that Sawhorse did in partnership with Omnicom, and it's the Skittles game flute. So we made a Skittles flute that is also a video game controller, and we have this famous Twitch streamer, Point Crow. We basically locked him in a room for 72 hours, and he has to play this flute, and that's playing the actual game, and he has to beat these games in order to be freed from this locked room. I love this campaign. I'm super excited about it. We can finally talk about it. I think what I love about this is it's a reminder to marketers that if they want to get into gaming, you can always do gaming adjacent activations. There's nothing we did inside of a gaming platform here. We didn't have to make any custom 3D art. We didn't have to do any partnerships with any game companies. This is all outside, but leveraging game culture. So it's just a reminder that, you can go that route if you want to.
Well, and it's super smart because, like you say, it makes it way more probably faster and turnkey so you can activate things, if you don't have so much time.
Exactly. That's a great point. What's up? What's new with you this week?
So, as I said, kind of recouping from the South by Southwest frenzy, collecting notes, catching up with all the wonderful people I met there. But one of the things I wanted to share on this episode is actually my latest article on Fast Company dropped.
Nice. Nice.
Thanks.
Congrats.
Hey, thanks. And this article, it's 5 trends shaping experience-driven retail. So it's all about brands blending technology, creativity, culture to build those experiences, whether it be in the physical or digital world. And I highlight a number of examples focused on gaming, immersive marketing, fandom, and a bit of IRL action. So check it out.
Nice. Yeah, we'll definitely check that out. I love it. I'm excited. Should we jump to the news?
Yes, let's jump to the news. So I'll dive in with the first story this week. First story, we're really focused on Fortnite, K-pop, and brand rot, the next generation of marketing. And this was featured in Wired magazine. What I really liked about this is that it highlights on award-winning fandom and pop culture expert Calvin Innes, and he really highlights like why the traditional advertising model is losing steam. It's really losing power, and why really the future of play and fandom is really community first and driving fans first. As you know, Nick, we're living in a world of Discord, Roblox, Fortnite, and it's really important to live where our consumers live there. And what was also exciting or noted here was, no surprise that fandom, it's overtaken those traditional marketing routes. And people are going to know, if you're not being real, if you're not integrated into the community. So really highlighting on fans participating, creating, and sharing those narratives, kind of like the example you shared with Skittles, Nick.
Awesome. I love that coverage, and I think it speaks to a broader trend of brands, leveraging these more interactive or immersive platforms to reach audiences and have that value. And I think it's smart that they're really kind of anchoring this whole article in the new season of Fortnite, because we've said this before on the show, but I think it rings true. Fortnite is one of the best examples of a open place to pipe in, the cutting edge pop culture and weave it in an organic and authentic way. And yeah, seeing that new trailer that dropped is just all the partnership that they have. It's like chef's kiss to them. And I think they're a great example for other platforms of all kinds to look at. How are you brokering brand deals and then orchestrating seasons or orchestrating sort of waves of content that is relevant to the user base, but also beneficial to the brands? It's really smart the way they do it.
Very exciting. Let's hear your story, Nick.
So my first story is bittersweet. Definitely not great news, but so Meta Horizon is ditching its virtual reality component. So Meta, for those the Meta Horizon platform, for those that don't know, it's basically Meta's metaverse or UGC gaming platform. It's been around for a few years. It started specifically with VR. So all of the builders and all the people that are participating in this platform, most of them are VR first, wearing the headsets, building in VR, sharing games in VR. And just last year, they announced that there's going to be a mobile component to this. So you can play on your phone or in VR. That's sort of rolled out this year. But now Meta's being definitive, saying we're killing the VR component. We're only focusing on mobile. And so this month, the Meta Horizon app will be removed from the Quest store, so nobody new can download it. And then in June, they're completely disabling all VR capabilities for that community. Um, and it's that's the bitter part. The sweet part is that Meta is really focusing on the mobile first side of this. They want to be a competitor to Roblox and Fortnite and the other biggest, most successful UGC gaming platforms in the world. So it is a wise choice to go there. Although it's kind of sad because the community who has spent all their time and energy starting companies, building connections, exploring, all of that was VR. So, the question is, are those people going to make the jump to mobile and start designing for mobile, or are they going to walk away from the platform? And I think what's so interesting here and very important to highlight is that UGC gaming platforms only grow and blow up when you have engaged organic user base. The people that want to be there, that want to build, that have an opportunity to actually build a company, and find success and find large numbers of players. So you need that organic love, and I feel like by closing the door on VR, they just lost it. The question will be, and the challenge will be, can they make the mobile side compelling enough to galvanize and grow an organic audience that's authentic? Your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, you covered it beautifully. It is sad. I mean, like when we think about COVID and we had that next sort of wave of VR, and you saw loads of people, like just from a consumer base, shift to VR, playing things like Beat Saber.
Mhm, mhm.
That was kind of like the Pong of VR, right? And so you had this extended play just from consumers, but like you said, with creators, and there's definitely a rich community, certainly wonderful, highly talented people I've worked with in the industry over the years who invested a lot of love,
Mhm.
care, production, partnership. I mean, it's sad, but I think we will see kind of the ones who are really gung ho about it will pivot and kind of explore that space. I'm curious to see how consumers are gonna take that mobile,
Y
especially with the high, platforms we have existing already.
I mean, it's like, get your popcorn out, because what's gonna happen with Meta Horizon Worlds this year is gonna be totally interesting. Um, and yeah, I fully agree. Like, let's keep an eye on it and see where it goes. But what story do you have next?
So the next story I have, keeping it all, Fortnite related this week, it seems like. Fortnite is in the news. So Fortnite returned to Google Play Store globally on March 19th. So Epic Games and Google, they kind of finally settled their legal disputes. So the story is all about those biggest shift in mobile gaming, that we've seen. So this has been a long, long legal fight. Uh, and the move resets the relationship that Epic has had with Google. And it really opens the door for all of those Android players who, haven't had the chance
Yeah.
to play on their devices. Um, it's also, I think a big shift in how we're going to see platforms and publishers negotiate, their power of payment and
That's a great point.
access. Right, and then actually, let's talk about some of the numbers here, right? So with Fortnite returning back to the Google Play Store, this legal settlement, just to get into the numbers here, it's lowering the in-app payment fees. So
Mhm.
they were 30%. So a massive amount just to be on the store
Yep.
taken away, and that's been reduced to 10 or 20%.
Nice.
So very, very excited for, the creator community and all of those creating there.
I love
And
it.
the
Honestly, like, Tim Sweeney is the G. Like, I've said this on the show before, but I'll say it again. This guy is like, stands up to the biggest tech companies in the world and is just like, nah, dog, not doing it. I'm pulling my whole platform from you. And like, he goes into court, he goes to battle, he unlocks, he changes laws, he changes rules. He's a great example for other tech leaders who, are upset about the way things are. You don't have to settle. If obviously Epic's a larger company, they have a lot of resources, but this guy puts his foot down and action. We see action, which I love to see.
I love that too. It is really a good example of, using your, power and community and so to put your word out there and your point of view out there. And actually, one of the things that came up, speaking of Tim, okay, Nick, so speaking of Tim, because he's sort of pushed back and he is such a big voice in the community. So Tim has actually agreed not to publicize or criticize the Play Store until 2032. So there's a there's an expiry date on that, Nick. So let's see.
Well, that's fair. I mean, he just knocked down 20% of their profits, or two-thirds of the profits that they were making. So that seems like a fair trade-off. You can't talk shit.
I I think so. And just sort of like, of course, brands in play. So what does all this mean for brands, right? It means we have the mobile access is expanding. We're going to have larger global distribution channels and making more branded experiences. We're going to have lower fees, changing those economies as we touched on. So giving more publishers another more investment opportunities. And then also, bigger reach for live events. So with Fortnite's new season launch, like the same day that this happened, you will see brands engage more Fortnite drops, more opportunities, more audience, more ways to engage. So really excited about this one.
It's a win for Fortnite. I'll take it.
And what about you, Nick? Your story, what's going on?
Last story of the day is Heineken's campaign is all capitalizing on fandom and human connection. So
Nice.
Heineken's got this new campaign that they're rolling out all year. Basically, it's called Fans Have More Friends. And it's a global sponsorship platform focused on the biggest passions that the Heineken's customers have, which is football, aka soccer for Americans, Formula One, and music festivals like Coachella, etc. And what's interesting is the campaign was built on a simple insight, which basically is fandom accelerates human connection. And they did a bunch of surveys that basically they found that 75% of fans say fandom helped them meet new people. So
That's
the more
nice.
friends, the bigger a fan you are, the more friends you have. It's like there's a natural community that kind of builds around fandom. And what's interesting here is that Heineken is recognizing this and basically saying, let us go to where the fandom is and show up organically. And then essentially that is our marketing. We don't need to market around these fan areas or outside of them and say how great Heineken is. They're just saying, let's go to where these organic fandoms are exploding and just show up and add value to them. And it was really exciting because the first way they did this, they showed up in New York in like a social experiment, which was
Mm.
really interesting. There was this guy, Joe, just a normal guy that moved to New York City from Australia. There was an upcoming huge football match that he basically was going to watch alone because he had no friends in New York. So what the campaign was, he made all these flyers that said, come have a beer with me at the bar, watch this game. Are you a fan of this league? Come hang out with me. So he put it all over the city. He also did all these social posts. And basically, Heineken rallied around this and they kind of reskinned a bar in New York. They brought in the Champion League trophy, the
Oh,
actual one. They
wow.
flew it in. And then they had like this big like football star, like an OG, like actually serving beers for fans. And like hundreds of people showed up. And it was like this crazy, like organic, immersive marketing activation that was all celebrating fandom and friendship and growing relationships. So I thought that was just really clever and exciting. And it shows that like thinking outside of the box and sort of reworking your marketing, you can really add more value when you kind of go deeper and you get out of the way a little bit. You surround yourself around what's happening organically. So yeah, but I discovered this through a LinkedIn post where they are also as part of this campaign, they made a mobile game that basically is like an endless runner where the better you do, you gain more friends. And so you have all these friends running with you inside of this um, this mobile game that's Heineken branded. I know it's available in South Africa right now, but it's going to be rolling out to other places. Anyways, interesting campaign. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I love it. I love this idea of fandom and friendship and how Heineken really kind of took note of Joe, right? and supported them. And that's something, I think was a theme that you and I always talk about is like, don't interrupt those
Yeah.
moments, but integrate, support. And I think this is a good example of that.
Yeah, and another thing to keep in mind is, like, there was no Heineken branding on that flyer, and there was no real Heineken branding until you actually got to the bar. So I think that that is another way of keeping it authentic and organic. All right, well, that's it for the news this week. Let's move on to our real-time review.
That's right, Nick. Real time review. I was so excited to do the real time review at South by Southwest, IRL on the ground, and really exploring South by Southwest International Innovation Expo. And this is one of the rare places where you can sort of a single floor and you can go and tinker and play and touch everything from emerging hardware, immersive storytelling, experiential world building, from brands and creators from all over the world. And so, like, that's what's really exciting. This year, the through line was all about technology, narrative, physical interaction, and really merging in those deeper and more human ways. So, what really makes the expo stand out is that uh, the ability to connect with so many brilliant ideas, people, technologies in one place. And again, being able to test, touch, and tinker with those. And then on top of it, you know, one of the big sort of noticeable shifts has been towards those connected experiences. So blending physical and digital interaction. And then on top of it, the international presence brings that diversity of design philosophies, everything from anime driven storytelling to next gen AR tools. Now, one of the standout connected experiences I want to highlight is actually from Crunchyroll. Their their Sentenced to Be a Hero activation. So Crunchyroll delivered one of the most interactive and emotionally grounded activations. So Sentenced to Be a Hero, it's a dark fantasy where condemned criminals are forced into a service as heroes. So think of fighting Demon King's army with no escape. At the center is Teorita. She's a goddess who guides, judges, and really brings rare moments of humanity into the chaos. And she's just such a cool and interesting looking character. But what Crunchyroll did to celebrate, this series, they introduced this was an industry first. It was an industry first Teorita doll. She's an animatronic. It was this installation that where she's responding with lifelike expressions. When guests come up, they can pat her on the head, and she starts engaging with them. In terms of what was really good about this is that it was intimate, in terms of engaging with her, accessible. There was no badge required. Anybody, whether you're at South by or not, could come experience it. And it really communicates that emotional core of the series. You don't need to know about the series, to experience it. So I thought that was really great for fans. Uh,
So she was, like, fully in character, and I imagine this is, like, AI-driven sort of conversation?
It was not AI, but
Okay.
it was more kind of sensor based. So, she was an animatronic, physically there. I mean, I'm quite short, so she was just around my height. but, um, but yeah, a physical, animatronic that you could walk up to and react. And they had a great screen, that would kind of guide you as well behind the experience. In terms of the next one we have up here, is Spectacles XR experience. So,
Oh, I heard about this. I didn't see it, but yeah, tell me.
oh my goodness, it was so much fun. Very active, that you can probably see on the camera here. Very active, but Spectacles. So they brought a very hands-on XR experience to the expo. Attendees could come up. You have the spectacles on. You try the latest build of Lens Studio. So it is everything from active gameplay. You can probably see me punching in there and, and everything, but active gameplay. And then there was also art and creative driven modes in there. What was good about it or were kind of those things, right? You had energetic gameplay. I love anytime you can have like physical active gameplay, punching, jumping. So like that was really great. The creative experience behind it, where you can get into kind of a meditative flow state of creating, which is really cool. The challenges, or what wasn't so great about it was the navigation. If you've used spectacles before, you kind of like navigate through your hand.
Yeah.
It didn't always connect. It was a little bit um, challenging, and then the spectacles themselves were quite heavy compared to like a Meta Ray-Bans
Yeah. There's more tech
hardware.
inside of them. They have more augmented reality and spatial computing capabilities than the Meta Ray-Bans, but obviously that comes at a price, which is weight. And I guess these are rolling out this year. So spectacles are coming out to the mass market public this year for sale. Uh, Val, did they say that these things that you tested, these apps, are they going to be available to the public, or is this more of like a test thing at South by?
Oh, yes, and quite a few of them are already out now, which
Okay,
is great. Yeah,
cool.
which is great. And then I guess just kind of, rounding out real-time review, International Innovation Expo, engaging activations like Crunchyroll's Sentenced to be a Hero, Spectacles XR. These experiences are really showing how those global brands are rethinking presence, whether it's in the physical world or digital world. At South by Southwest, Crunchyroll's extending that anime IP into the physical world, and Spectacles really empowering people to play and explore. I think together, what does all this mean? It's pointing towards that future where story, technology, and creativity are all fused together.
Well said. And South by is the perfect place to explore that. So we recommend everyone check it out next year. But all right, thanks for that review. Now let's go to our South by panel on innovators today and the future of play with Mitchel Berger, EVP of Global Commerce at Crunchyroll, and our friend Chris Down, Chief Design and Innovation Officer at Mattel.
So I am Val Vacante. I am a managing partner at Collabsco, also part of the Fast Company executive board. So I write for them. So check it out. But I'm so excited because this morning to join this incredible panel to cover innovators today and the future of play. Now we'll dive into the conversation. We have a couple of topics here. I guess the first one, and this is for the group, would love to hear, your point of view on what's happening with tech, what trends are kind of impacting your business, and what does it mean to play?
I mean, I can jump in. It wouldn't be a South by Southwest panel if we didn't talk about AI for a hot second and maybe a little bit more. I think there are two aspects of that technology in terms of like the capability that it puts into the hands of creators, which certainly in the Mattel, where we're very creative heavy in product development, product design, engineering, and so forth, and we're creating a lot of not just digital experiences, but physical products. We're using it a lot on the ideation, the front end, and we're using a range of tools, a variety of things. Certainly on further downstream, things like Adobe and Firefly we use to in kind of our packaging practice, which that's IP safe. Where things are a little bit hazier at this stage, we will use in ideation, but we measure the IP compliance in terms of how well is this representing the Mattel brand that it is, or our partner brand in terms of how that goes through our creative pipeline. On the outside of it, we're really in terms of external facing, using AI. You saw Skeletor, and I know it's the whole even bringing OpenAI up in the context of this is a little bit tough, but let's talk about kind of what it allows us to do in terms of creating consumer engagement. It's interesting and it's exciting because it does allow consumers to, in that case, co-create with us, which we think is really, really interesting. We're playing with it more in the adult space and not the kid space, because it's an area, certainly from a kid point of view, where we have a huge obligation to ensure that we're doing things in a safe, high quality, not just IP specific way, but protecting kids through play.
It's interesting for us at Crunchyroll because we sit at this intersection. We're both a tech company and an entertainment company. We have a platform that we're out there driving. So one of the things for us that we look at is how do we always make sure that that platform, that experience is something that the consumers like, that feels authentically Crunchyroll and is quality. So one great example is this year we've launched in the U.S. a manga service. It was something that fans have told us for a very long time. They really enjoy reading manga. They want to interact with it. They want to interact with the Crunchyroll. So we've added that to our platform. It's not core to what the streaming platform wasn't there, but we're out figure out a way to do that felt very Crunchyroll and brought that tech in so that you can enjoy the manga, so that you can have a seamless experience on our platform. I think it's really enhanced that. So that's one of the things that we're always looking for is how do you enhance that experience to make sure that we're on that track of making sure that customers are delighted every time they come and interact with us on the platform side.
Yeah, and that's really nice talking about the manga extension because we know anime fans love manga, but just to have it as a nice extension to the existing experience they have. I believe it's an additional subscription, right?
It is. It's included in one of the tiers. It's just a way to make sure that as a member of Crunchyroll, we're always adding value. There's always something else there for you to make that something that you're going to come back to month after month.
All in one place.
All in one place, all you can say.
I would just say that, with technology, and then you were asking about like how are we leveraging these things. The important thing to remember is just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? Like a new tech should come out, and a lot of brands kind of gravitate toward that, and they say like, give me one of those. But sometimes it's just not relevant to what that brand is, or it feels forced. So I think it's really important to remind and go back to what the core of the challenge is. What is the brand ethos? And how are we translating that to the minds of consumers? And what tech is relevant should we leverage in order to do that properly? And I would piggyback on what you were saying, Chris, about AI, like Gen AI. It's moving so fast, and you have the ability to co-create. And I think that's an area that I'm the most excited about. And I wanted to mention what Roblox is doing. I don't know if you're familiar with the latest announcement, but now inside of games in real time, users can prompt 3D objects that not only they can that visually look the way they want them to, but they also come with the code. So you could say, I want a car that looks like a banana with a rocket, and not only will that in real time show up inside the game you're playing, but it will have the mechanics and the code to be drivable. So I think what's really exciting, if that I'm excited about, is designing experiences and games where the people inside of them are designing and building in ways that they never have before. So I think from a creative standpoint, that's really an opportunity for brands to really get crazy.
Yeah, I'm excited too because it just makes it easier and more accessible. Like, as a fan, right? You have like, oh, what if this happened, or what if that happened, or I would love if whatever happened. But maybe they're not a coder, or maybe they're not like a game dev, or maybe they just don't know how to draw really well. I don't know. But having, some of those accessible tools, I think it's going to be really exciting. And thinking about things like fan art and how that evolves, or like what you guys are doing, Skeletor as an example. But, how are fans going to start translating those stories or inspiring new products or ideas? I think it's interesting. Let's see. Before we go to the next, let's talk about one of the trends is because Chris, you touched about with Mattel and the sort of older audience, that kidult number is really big. So, in terms of maybe Nick, in terms of any of the work you're doing in audience, is that impacting anything you're doing, or for any of you really, are you seeing an uptick in what you're creating, how you're creating, or anything revolving that big kidult number?
I'll start. I think for us, when you look at that kidult section, it's all about collectibles. I think that's where it really manifests itself in the anime world is people want to own something, a tangible piece of this IP that they love, that they've seen, that they've watched, that they've shared with their friends. So we're looking at ways to offer things, whether it's a very high-end collectible home entertainment release. And yes, home entertainment is still alive and kicking and very, very ownable. But enhancing that with a chess set or an exclusive pendant or something like that to make it a little more collectible. looking at ways that we can create exclusive opportunities, a drop that is a limited time that creates a little bit of FOMO, but something that is ownable, that is tangible. And I think that is an interesting trend in this digital first world that we all live in now that's very ephemeral. There is this turn that you're starting to see back to the tangible, back to ownership, back to it's mine. I can touch it. I can feel it. I can, I'm a big reader. I love to read books digitally, but I also love to have them on my shelf, and you can smell them and you can touch them. And it's a fundamentally different experience. And I think that you're going to see, not only the kidult genre demographic there, but this younger fan base is going to come to that. It's going to be something we see it in music. It's vinyl, and that is vinyl. Vinyl's ownable. It's tangible. It's there. It's a different experience, and it lives alongside streaming. They both serve different needs. I think you're going to see a lot more of that in the coming years, and we're trying to lean into that ownability around things that are anime.
Yeah, I agree. And I know we mentioned kidults, but it's really interesting to see, we'll call them Gen Alpha, those cuspers, right? Who are cusping Gen Alpha and Gen Z. They grew up mainly with a lot of digital product, right? It was like a lot of apps. It was maybe Angry Bird apps or different things like that. Lego Life, that was something that got Lego fans really excited, taking pictures. It was like the kid safe version of Instagram with Lego. They retired it. You know what happened to all those kids' memories? Disappeared. They're gone. They don't exist. And so I think because of examples like that, you're seeing these kids who are like, I want the vinyl, or I want the physical manga. I want the digital thing too. I want to have that experience, but I need to have that.
I do think, I mean, at a macro level, I love Mitchell, what you were saying about like walking into a convenience store with a Demon Slayer or whatever your fandom is, and like why do you do that? And I think that signaling is a big part, like signaling fandom in order to create connections, right? That is what that story represented. There's something going on. I mean, it is the fastest growing. Like, it's ironic that we're sitting here in 2026 in the fastest growing segment of toys, and it has been for the last 4 years of toys. People is adult, the adult consumer. That's the fastest growing segment. That is, I believe, a little bit of the sign of the it's a bit of sign of the times. It's a bit of kind of, there's a democratization of kind of what people can engage with, and it's gaming and it's content and it's toys and it's all kinds of other things. And I think that it's a little bit of kind of a tidal wave that has raised the ocean to a new norm, where I don't think that audience is going to go away. I think that actually another way, it's maybe a different way of kind of looking at the same code, but I do think that the benefit of play to humanity, this is getting, not to get too crazy deep on it, but I think that play is a little bit of the antidote to some of the tension that we all feel. It is about escaping. We just did this study called Shape of Play. Another thing to go and check out, Shape of Play. We did it last year. 33,000 people around the world that we talked to, including adults, including kids, and heard directly from them the benefit, the attraction, the need, and the persistence of play.
I want to piggyback on that a little bit about this concept of play and interactivity, if you apply it to storytelling. And if we think about storytelling in general, it started with cavemen, and that was always interactive. Think about it. Like, they were making sounds and moving around and like touching things and telling stories, right? And then somehow, as we evolved, we created the media system, so we were like making really polished content, that was produced, and it was like a video or a still, and then it was distributed to the world, and we had much more reach, but we lost the touch. I think this digital revolution of interactivity is actually tying back into our primal need as storytellers to connect. So I think it's really like an evolution of ways of connecting.
And I would add to that, I think you're onto something. It's the connection. And, we're in this digital first world. I think people are craving in-person and live connections. And they live both. So the example I always use is music. I'm a big music fan too. You can sit, as I was this morning getting ready, and listen to Metallica in your headphones or a speaker, and it is a wonderful experience. Like I mean, at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning is really the only way I got here. You know, but that's one experience. I'm going to go see them in the Sphere in October live. Fundamentally different experience because it's a crowd, it's live, it's an energy. So I was talking about earlier with theatrical, it's a unique moment in time. Both of those serve needs. Both of them feed off each other. That's why streaming and theatrical, for example, are not in conflict with each other. They're fundamentally different experiences. And I think play plays a big part of that is people crave that experience of interaction with other people and what's going on. It serves this base human need that we all have that to your point, it's probably lacking these days and people are craving.
Well, and that's a great segue to the next sort of topic here, which you guys kind of touched on, is Willie, what are the opportunities for brands and play? What are the opportunities in community? What are the opportunities with, how you collaborate? Or
Like I love the question. It kind of ties back to what we've been touching on a little bit. Like we're at this really interesting moment in the history of humanity where kind of anything feels like it's possible. Yeah. And AI is kicking that door wide open if it was only cracked open before. And even like, I mean, graphics. So we were having a conversation yesterday about like, I was listening to your podcast live, like, rather like consumers are less and less interested in like 4K, 10K, 1000K graphics, high fidelity. It's the next PS6, 7, 8, not like, okay, it's no longer about processing power and fidelity because it's gotten to a point where it feels pretty damn real. And if that doesn't feel real enough, throw on a headset, and so yeah. And so they're looking for what is then the novelty of what that experience is? What is the quality of the experience? What is the uniqueness because of the creator that made it? And how can we make a connection? Because now it's a deep cut that you and I are in. Like it's like this whole other level, which I think is just so interesting.
Yeah, I love that. And I think for me, it's like the real opportunity for brands is to connect deeply with their consumer and have a dialogue that's open. It's opportunities for brands to be vulnerable and connect in ways that really create massive loyalty and brand love, which you never could before. The technologies didn't exist.
Now there are no barriers in how you do that, right?
Exactly. And so there's opportunities now to go deep and build that. And that's what I think is most exciting. The brands like you guys are actually pioneers. You're not afraid. You're taking the risk. You're being vulnerable. You're, diving into communities. You're co-creating. You're growing in that way, and you're leading the industry. So I think it's the brand to lean in that will be the most successful.
I think the other thing is it's up to the brands to help foster a connection. They're the connector point. When we look at what I get to do every day, the way I like to talk about the team is I'm a connection point between two different sides of a pole. On one side, there's a creator somewhere that has a vision. They have a point of view or a story or something that they're trying to put out into the world that they want to share. On the other hand, you've got a consumer who has an emotional need that they need met. They need to laugh, they need to cry, they need to forget. There's something they're trying to fulfill. I think the brands that are most successful, the ones that say, okay, I've got a creator and a fan who both have needs. How do I connect them in an authentic way that doesn't feel forced, that doesn't feel opportunistic, that doesn't feel all about just making money, but really feels about, I'm going to help you fulfill this need and tell your story. And the brands that do that, I think really resonate and are successful. And then all the other things come, the financial, the scope, all that is a byproduct. It's not what drives it. It's about making that connection.
I completely agree. It is being really, and it's like community first, fan first. What are the gaps? I think Mitchel, it's interesting with your background and helping, dubs get out on top, like at the same time. That's a massive pain point for fans who I don't want to wait 2 weeks. I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait a day. I want to see it at the same time. So anytime that can happen for fans to see their favorite anime, I mean, that's huge, right? But it doesn't happen for everybody, right?
It doesn't. And that's a great example of looking at what the fans need were trying to find a solution. You go back 5 or 10 years ago, those dubs weren't coming out 2 weeks. They were coming out 6 months later on a home entertainment release. They weren't available in the moment. but we looked at what are the fans saying. Those dub fans want to be part of the conversation in the community in the moment. So you come up with a technological solution to enable that. And it really has brought so many more people into the fan base because you've removed a barrier and you've helped them connect with that piece of content and with the community that they want to talk about in the moment when it's being broadcast.
And to your point, that brings more community, brings more, right?
Big pool. Everybody's welcome.
Well, great. And then in terms of, any kind of, say, partnerships, how does that come into play? Like, how do you guys decide who to team up with?
I think, look, it's really interesting. It's kind of occurring as we're talking about all of this stuff. I mean, it's all very interconnected. What you decide to do with your brands, there's an aspect of experimentation that is kind of the bedfellow of innovation. And who you partner with has to, we've talked about things like authenticity, brand resonance. I'll bring back again. It's a little bit dry, but actually it really helps you kind of think about what those boundaries and where the new frontiers might be when you actually understand like what is the purpose of the brand, and how does that connect with consumers. Where might I go with it? So, everybody creatives do really well when they're creating inside of kind of a framework or a box, understanding what that brand stands for and knowing that there has to be a balance in adhering to or supporting that brand's equity, as you ensure that it stays relevant by observing like what's hot in culture. I'll tell you, like as we think about brand partnerships, hot in culture aligned with brand resonance, it's like, wow. And if there's a fan that is kind of like, I don't know, Billie Eilish and Uno, like really? It was our number one selling Uno game last year. And it's bananas. I'll tell you, fun fact, by the way, for you, South by Southwest. So we did the Billie Eilish thing. She is actually an Uno fan, as our Swift is an Uno fan as well. But her dad worked at Mattel for years. Yep. For decades, trade show services. A builder. I've got some Mattel folks in the audience, and they're like, what? Are you serious? Billie Eilish's dad? Yep. Billie and Phineas' dad worked. But it's those intersections, understanding like what is the cultural relevance? Like, why do I care? Oh, sometimes it's because it's totally authentic. It didn't even make sense until you told me the story. I love stories. So it's like now it makes sense. And I'm like, okay, Billie and Uno, I'm all in. Other times it's just like, you know what? Why would we do something with with Formula One and Hot Wheels? Oh, two great tastes that go together. Or Daniel Arsham, if you're in the artist community and you love cars, you love Porsches, and you love kind of his sensibilities, that intersection with an adult fan in the Hot Wheels space worked really, really well also.
I think it's authenticity. For us, it's all about authenticity. I think old school product placement just doesn't work. Like, so if you get a chance, if you haven't seen it, there's this, what I think is maybe the best example ever of why this doesn't work. When they released Star Wars in Latin America years ago on television, they couldn't cut in commercials. So what they did was they just cut clips into the actual film where Obi-Wan's going to get the lightsaber for Luke, and he reaches into a cooler and gets a beer. It is one of the most jarring things you've ever seen in your entire life. So good. That to me is what product placement and inauthenticity, that is inauthenticity to a T. You can't have that. It's got to be a partnership and a brand that feels that fan goes, yeah, there's a reason for this to exist. And again, maybe you have to tell them why. Maybe you have to walk them to the story of why Billie Eilish makes sense for Uno, but it's got to be real. You can't force it. And if you can find those real touch points and the brands you work with understand your brand and connect, then it's gold. It absolutely
It makes it delightful.
Yes, that's it. Larry, that'd be fun. Like you said, it can't suck.
It also can't be jarring. When you're consuming content in the way that you want to, if a brand shows up, you have to say, oh, that's additive. Oh, that's clever how they did that. Or I didn't even notice it and I enjoyed what I was playing or whatever. Like that's how you know it's a solid integration. But I would say like going back to like good partnerships, at Sawhorse, we're really fortunate to work with some of the biggest brands in the world. We worked with Mattel recently, and it's the good partnerships are the ones where the brands are open-minded. Like brands are traditionally kind of closed-minded. They have full control over their brand, their IP. their brand guidelines, how they are presented. It's the ones that are a bit more open-minded that come to us and say, how are we going to activate on Roblox in a way that the fans are going to, receive well? I'll give an example. Sam's Club. So we did a project on Roblox for Sam's Club, and that's a tricky brand. That's not the sexiest brand, but we found a way to really make it work for them. And it was because the client was so open-minded. She was like, how are we going to make Sam's Club cool on Roblox? And what do you guys recommend? And one of the things we leaned into was the fact that the Roblox audience is very young, very fun, and they like to lean into the weird, right? And so we suggested, what if we made a mascot of a toilet roll, and we turned him into a dude named Rolly, right? And toilet paper is the highest selling product at Sam's Club, which most brands would be like, are you kidding me? You're going to represent my brand with toilet paper? Like, get out of here. But she's like, you know what? I'll trust you. I'll trust the community. And that integration has been phenomenally successful. They've come back 2 times since and done activations, integrations into top games, but with that character. And I think that what I'm saying is it's the brands that take risks, that are open-minded, that really care about the community they're going into, that will be the most successful.
I have a toy idea, Nick. What do you got? Rolly's coming, baby. Oh, I love it.
Exclusively at Sam's Club. So we're almost at time, and of course we're at South by Southwest. Can't close South by Southwest without talking about the future. So, like, last sort of comments. What is the future of play? Where do you see it going?
I feel like we're living in the future now. I think the future is every week. Like looking at LinkedIn and staying on the pulse of this stuff, it's just mind-blowing, especially with AI. I know it's the buzzword. I'm so tired of saying it, pairing it, but it is impacting what we do at a rate that we can barely keep up with. I mean, the government can't keep up with it, that's for damn sure. So I don't know. I just like to think about it like we're making better campaigns. We're making better content. We're connecting with people in better, more deep ways than we ever have before. So I'm just like ready for whatever tech gets thrown out, and we got to figure out how to leverage it to tell stories more deeply, as a species.
And I think, and as we're riding that technology train, as I said earlier, I think we have to hold on to the physical world. I think there's an inherent value in physical things that we all innately know from birth, and we can't give up on that. We have to continue to feed that collectability and that fan mentality, give them things to play with that they can touch and feel in the real world.
I very much agree with both of you on this. I think that I actually think that all consumers of all ages are going to be more discriminating as we move forward. So I think the future of play, the future of engagement, the future of demand creation and demand capture, and all of the other things that probably everybody in this room represents, the quality of execution, the taste level, and the authenticity, I think those are going to be guiding forces for the things that, not that we do, because we do a lot of stuff that just sucks and do a lot of stuff that really works, but the stuff that works, I think, is going to be guided by those principles.
Well said. Totally agree with you guys.
Okay, well, thank you guys for joining us at South by Southwest. That is, thank you all for joining us and being part of the conversation, and have a wonderful South by Southwest.
Oh man, I love that panel. I think it was one of the most exciting conversations I've had on stage in a while. I think we really got into that free flow state, which was cool. And I just want to, mention that I love these brands because they're taking risks. And what I also love is that they're kind of embodying the title of this podcast, Brands in Play. Like, I feel like these brands specifically are having fun with their brand growth and their marketing, more so than so many other brands. So that's my takeaway.
Yeah, I loved it. Like you said, it was one of my favorite and most joyful panels that I've had in a long time. I thought it was really great how, Chris provided the sort of traditional toy play, but also all of the unexpected things that Mattel's doing in both physical and digital worlds, and how they're connecting, with these iconic brands in new ways. And then from Mitchell's perspective and Crunchyroll, I mean, it was so great to hear about the Crunchyroll flywheel and how Crunchyroll really puts those fan first experiences and shaping every touch point around the fan. And then, of course, Nick, the examples you shared from an immersive marketing standpoint, all the different brands that you shared, and then the conversation all around. It was just great for us to, as innovators and leaders in the community, to share our point of view, what we're working on, and what the future holds.
Yep. Well said. Now, let's go to hit, miss, and bet. All right, so for this week, my hit is the Coinbase commercial. Did you see this?
I did not see this one.
This is
No.
what you have to see. It's a TV commercial.
Okay.
Obviously, Coinbase, the cryptocurrency exchange, one of the biggest out there, they have a TV spot, a commercial spot. It's all over social and TV. It's featuring a video game character, kind of GTA style, going through
All
the
right.
rat race of life. He's sort of like going to the bank and he's kind of just doing, simple life shit. And he becomes sort of self-aware and then he kind of breaks free. And then he's like running and trying to escape that reality. And slowly through the editing, he kind of like emerges into like a real human with IRL footage. It's a cool concept, and I like it mainly because, well, technically they pulled off a really awesome thing. You can look in the BTS footage, you can see the way they put this together. Actually, when I
Oh,
saw it the
nice.
first time, I thought it was rendered video game graphics, but the whole thing was shot
Oh, wow.
practically, which is pretty fantastic. Um, but what I like about it is it's just an indicator showing that like how big video game culture is today, where so many brands can basically leverage gaming culture and gaming imagery to get their messages out to the massive mainstream. And maybe that's a simple concept that everybody knows, but I think it's worth mentioning. That's my hit. My miss is Meta Ray-Ban's class action lawsuit over privacy. I don't know if you saw this, but
Wow.
it's a bit creepy.
Yeah. Yes.
So we know that this is like the year of the smart glasses. I think there's like 4 or 5 massive companies that are releasing them at scale globally. So we're going to see a ton more adoption. Lots of competitors in the space. And so Meta is one of the first movers. They say that their product, the Ray-Bans, are designed for privacy. But there was an investigation that was done that found that the videos and the photos that were
Mm.
captured by the glasses were actually being reviewed by human contractors from a Meta subcontractor in Kenya. And so you had all these humans like kind of like processing these photos and these videos. And it was reported that there was financial documents, people in bathrooms, and like sexual interactions.
Ooh.
The fail or the miss is that we're just moving too fast for government and society to keep up with this tech product that is rolling out globally. And I think the reality is it's almost like when cars came out the first time, it was like, we're not going to use horse carriages anymore. We're going to just have these cars. Like all these people died, when freeways came out, people just died. And it was like a horrible thing, but it kind of has to be done as you transition into a major technological sort of step forward. I think we're in that right now with smart glasses. And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg challenges and problems that will arise, but I know we will like break through it and get to a better place. But it's a warning. This article is just an early warning for some shit that's gonna go down in all of our lives.
Yeah,
And
I feel like
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, I feel like a privacy first. It's almost like they've been completely open into the world, but there are ways, to have it closed or to just have
Yeah.
it to your device, and it's like we need to start with those closed experiences first before going all out, right?
Yeah, and I think, in tech, you have that cultural mindset that's like move fast and break things, where it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we're just gonna release it and there could be problems, so let's go. That's how we grow. We find bugs faster, and it's like cool sometimes, but also like, oh, massive
Privacy.
failures other times. So we're in it now. There's no going back. And for my bet this week, I was really excited. My bet is that Gen Z is gonna save Hollywood. And I saw this really interesting report in the Hollywood Reporters they did a study that said that 40% of today's movie-going audience is Gen Z. And so there's this myth that like young people don't go to movies. They're always like buried in their smartphones. They have no attention span. And this article just proves that that just isn't true. And what's interesting is that young people, they actually do want IRL experiences.
Yes.
They do want to be around other humans. They want to touch grass. They're not just like this sort of stereotype that we think a lot of older generations think they are. So that's, it's a great signal that it's like, don't oversimplify generations.
Okay, so that's a wrap for this week. Thank you for joining us for another week of Brands in Play.
And once again, a big thanks to Mitchel Berger from Crunchyroll and Chris Down from Mattel and the South by team for having us up on that panel. And Val, what's up next week?
We'll be chatting to Charlie Fink. He is the OG of XR, a legend in the space. He actually wrote a book about the metaverse before people talked about it.
He's the OG goat, the XR goat.
He is. He's consultant, columnist, author, producer, podcaster, and he's also a professor as well. So covering all the things of AI, XR, metaverse for Forbes and more. So I can't wait to get Charlie on the show.
Yeah, that's going to be a dope interview. Looking forward to that. And if you're joining Brands in Play, make sure to follow the show. Every week, we break down how brands, platforms, and creators operate inside of gaming and immersive media.
Edward, please read us out.
And that was Brands in Play. Thank you for joining the podcast where we explore immersive marketing and the people who are leading it. Co-hosted by Nic Hill and Val Vacante, our show today was produced and edited by myself, Edward Regu, alongside our creative producer, Dr. Giovanni Casimiro, and creative director, Ben Caro. A huge shout out to Asset Barrett for assisting us with our real-time review compilation edit this week. Be sure to join us every week for brand new episodes.
Solely those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views, policies, or positions of host employers. The information shared during this podcast is based on personal experience and publicly available information and is intended for informational purposes only. Any references to specific platforms, companies, or partnerships are made in a personal capacity and do not imply endorsement, partnership, or official association with any organization mentioned.